Good morning, everyone. Let us start today's session. Uh, Before that, take a review of what we had discussed in previous session. In that session, we had discussed about the relationship between displacement, stress, and strain, which is very important one. And we have concluded that the displacement, stress, and strain in terms of nodal values are found out to be U is equal to NQ, E is equal, strain is equal to BQ, and stress is equal to EBQ. So these are the uh, relationship we have found out based on our knowledge of shape function as well as the knowledge of a natural coordinate system. Then we have started with formulation of element stiffness matrix, which is an important building block for your finite element analysis problem. And there are two approaches, rather three approaches are there. We had discussed potential energy approach, which we are trying to solve it. Then Galerkin approach and Rayleigh-Greaves method. So these are the three approaches we have. But just to understand the concept of formulation of element stiffness matrix, it's sufficient to understand any one of the method, one of the approach. So we have started with potential energy approach. So what we had discussed in this, the total potential energy is equal to strain energy plus work potential if your distributed forces and traction forces, surface traction forces are ignored. Then the sum of total potential energy will be strain energy plus work potential. Now, strain energy, for our purpose, we had considered it as energy stored in the deformation process, and work potential is the external work done on the elastic body by external force. Okay. Now, according to our potential energy approach, the system is said to be in equilibrium when sum of strain energy and work potential is zero or minimum. So this is your statement for potential energy approach while considering strain energy and work potential. After that, uh, we discussed that is strain energy per unit volume is your half of force into deflection, then force, stress into area, and deflection we have tried to write in terms of stress. So the deflection upon length into length we have discussed, and we have formulated this equation. After that, we have considered a small finite part dx of an element uh, in for instead of considering entire element length L, we consider the finite part dx of an element, and we have integrated it as sigma t epsilon a dx. This is your strain energy, and work potential we have formulated as minus summation of ut into pi. Now, to determine the element stiffness matrix, we need to find out both the strain energy and work potential. So, work potential we have the strain energy we have formulated as by this equation, and based on the displacement, stress, and strain relationship, we can say that sigma is equal to b into q, and epsilon is equal to b into q, and sigma is equal to ebq. Putting these values into this equation, we got equation number 4. And then we have considered that cross section and modulus of elasticity within the element is constant. It will remain constant. That why we consider A is equal to AE. That means cross sectional area for the element will remain as it is for the small portion of the element, and modulus of elasticity also remain as it is, and B into B transpose we consider as a constant. Now, moving forward, let us concentrate on this dx. Now, dx is the small area on which we are concentrating. We are finding the strain energy and work potential. But we know that based on our previous discussion, x is the quantity which is in global terms, and we always try to convert that x quantity uh, in your natural coordinate system, that is zeta terms. So we need to convert this, or to differentiate it, we need to convert it into zeta. Okay, so for that we are having our well-known equation, that is uh, d zeta by dx, which is equal to 2 upon x2 minus x1. Okay, so this we have already formulated uh, d zeta by dx, because we know that, since we know that zeta is equal to 2 into x2 minus x1 upon x2 minus x1. Okay, so so that is sorry, yeah, minus 1. So after differentiating this, we get with respect to x, we get this equation. And we know that x2 minus x1 is equal to length of the element, LE we can say it as. For reference, I am putting this diagram in front of you. In terms of global coordinate system, this is one element, and the length of the element is x2 minus x1, this x2 minus this much x1. So that's why I am writing this equation as 2 upon length of element, length of element. Okay, and to write it in terms of dx, I can say that it is LE, length of the element, by 2 into d zeta. Now you guess that why I wrote it in terms dx, I have converted into d zeta. So put it into equation number 4. Okay, so this is my equation number 4, half qt and this term. So I have converted this term, dx term, I'll write it into the form of d zeta. Okay, so let us write it, ue, strain energy, I can say it as half of q transpose in bracket EE, which is a constant modulus of elasticity, B transpose B. These are constant term. Again, A is also constant term, LE by 2, and I am now integrating it from minus 1 to plus 1 and d zeta into q. So taking the reference of equation number 4, I have again rewrite the equation number 5, let us say. So this is equation number 4. So I consider E, B transpose B, and A are constant terms, and after writing dx as LE by 2 into d zeta, I'll get this term and integrating it from within the limits minus 1 to plus 1. After solving this, I'll get q is to q transpose, rearranging the terms, B transpose B, AE, modulus of elasticity, LE by 2, and zeta minus 1 to plus 1 q. So this is simply integration, and further solving it, I got q transpose equal to B T B AE, modulus of elasticity, and length of the element into q. So this is my equation number 5. Okay, so simply I have the dx small term, the finite area that I have considered, I have converted it in terms of the natural coordinate, and after performing the mathematical operations like integration and rearranging the equation, I got equation number 5. Also, you know that B is equal to 1 upon LE minus 1, 1. Okay, so this is from equation number that we have formulated over here. Look at this equation. Okay, so while formulating this sigma, we consider this B as 1 upon x2 minus x1 minus 1, 1. And we know that x2 minus x1 is the length of the element. That's why it is considering this as equation number 7. So with reference to equation number 7, I have written this equation 1 upon LE minus 1 plus 1. Okay. Now B transpose is your 1 upon LE minus 1, 1. Okay, so why I am writing this? To formulate this equation, to find this Bt into B. So further writing this, I will get B transpose into B equal to 1 upon LE square minus 1, 1 and minus 1, 1. So this is my B transpose into B. Further, I'll get, after solving this, after writing this in matrix form, I can write the same equation as Bt into B as half Le square 1 minus 1 minus 1, 1. Okay, this is my equation number 6. And from equation number 5 and from equation number 6, I can write UE as half of QT AE EE upon LE 1 minus 1 minus 1, 1 into Q. Okay, so this is important one. So I have written this equation number 5 or 4 in terms of this equation number 5 and 6. Okay, so let us see what I have written over here. So this is my equation number 5. So B transpose into B, it is half LE square upon minus 1, 1 minus 1, 1, and QT is outside the element, and this is AE EE LE. So LE square at the denominator and this LE will get cancelled, and you'll get this equation. Okay, so this equation I can write as half of QT KE into Q. This is equation number 7, and this KE is called as element stiffness matrix, which is very important to derive. Element stiffness matrix. Okay, element stiffness matrix, if I consider, so I can write KE as AE EE LE 1 minus 1 minus 1, 1. So what are the terms are there? AE is your cross-sectional area. EE is your modulus of elasticity for the small element. LE is the length of the element. Okay, so this is my equation number 8. So from equation number 6, equation number 7, it shows that the strain energy of this element, the small element that we have considered, is similar to that of the simple spring, where the strain energy in general terms are considered as half kq square. So for spring, in spring, if we consider the general terms, the strain energy can be written as half kq square, and from the equation number 8, it is seen that K is directly proportional to the product of cross-sectional area and modulus of elasticity, and inversely proportional to length of the element. Okay, it is observed that this matrix is symmetric and its transpose is also would be the same. So what are the derivations what we can derive from these equations? So strain energy of this element is same as that the simple spring stored in general terms. Second, your element stiffness matrix is Ke is directly proportional to product of your cross-sectional area and modulus of elasticity, and inversely proportional to the length of the element. Also, this matrix is stiffness matrix is symmetric, and its transpose will be would be the same. So this is how we can formulate the what we can say the element stiffness matrix. So this is very important term derivation to remember. You must know any one of the matrix that any one of the approach that is used to formulate your element stiffness matrix. So let us take a recap of what we had done so far. So element stiffness matrix, this is a potential energy approach we had discussed, and we know the statement of this uh, potential energy approach. Now to determine the element stiffness matrix, we have considered that potential energy is strain energy is half of this term, and based on the stress strain relationship and displacement relationship, rearranging the equation, we got this equation number 4. Now considering a small area dx, we consider that cross sectional areas and modulus of elasticity are constant, and again putting this dx in terms of natural coordinate zeta, I have rearranged the equation, and by making use of my b value in terms of length of the element, I have arrived at this result, and I have formulated that Ke is your element stiffness matrix. Now, these element stiffness matrices, if we club together, if we add together, then you will get your global stiffness matrix. Okay, so this is important point to consider for element stiffness matrix. Now we know that we have already discussed the steps to solve this your problem of finite element analysis. Before that, we also need to know, once we have developed a global stiffness matrix, the boundary conditions are to be need to be substituted to determining the unknowns. So what we need to do, we have found out the global stiffness matrix, and after finding out, we have to give the boundary conditions. Now, what are boundary conditions? Boundary conditions are the information which is known to us. Okay, let us say at node 1, some x amount of x unit of force is applied, or at node 2, some y unit of displacement is happening, or at node 3, it is a fixed node. So these are called the boundary condition. Boundary condition is the information known to us, which is useful to solve the problem. So once this we substitute this boundary condition, we can find out the unknowns. Unknowns means what are the displacements, what are the unknown forces, what are the stresses, and what are the strengths. So these unknowns can be calculated, and there are two methods to calculate these unknown. There are two methods to calculate this unknown. So first method is elimination method, elimination method, and second one is penalty method. There are two types of method to find out these unknowns: elimination method and penalty method. So we'll see the elimination method. Okay, so how your global stiffness matrix will look like. Let us say for 3 by 3 formulation, we can write the element stiffness matrix as K11, K12, K13, K21, K22, K23, K31, K32, and K33. This is your global stiffness matrix. Into your displacement matrix as global displacement matrix as Q1, Q2, Q3, and your global displacement vector as F1, F2, and F3. So this is in the form of KQ equal to F that we have just formulated. Okay. So if we know that Q1, consider this as a case, if Q1 is known, Q1 means the displacement at node 1. So let us say at node 1, the displacement is 0, it is fixed. Okay, so we know that if it is fixed at node 1, let us say this is fixed n, node 1 is fixed n, we can say that at Q1 it is 0. Okay, so since we know the Q1, we have to first eliminate the row Q1 and F1. If Q1 is known, we have to eliminate the row Q1 and F1. So we are eliminating this row Q1 and F1. Okay. Also, as the fixed variable Q1 is known as the fixed variable, this is important, please note carefully, as the first variable Q1 is known, eliminate first row and first column of the stiffness matrix. First column of the stiffness matrix. So this is very important point to consider. So first variable Q1 we are knowing, so that's why we are eliminating the first row and first column. Okay, so after this we have two unknowns and two equations. Okay, so we can solve them simultaneously, and you can formulate the you can find out the unknown. So what we have done in elimination approach, if Q1 is known, so we have to eliminate this Q1 and F1, the force related to that particular node. Okay, since this displacement is known, and since the first variable Q1 is known to us, we are eliminating the first row and first column of the global stiffness matrix. Let us say another case. If Q3 is known to us, then what we'll be doing? If Q3 is known to us, we'll be cancelling this Q3 and F3, and since the third element is Q3 is known. We'll be deleting the third row and third column. So we have these two, these four elements in the matrix are available, and Q1, Q2, and F1, F2. So likewise, what at what node you know the condition that we need to formulate. Now, after this, if we go back to our previous condition, Q1 is known, and we are eliminating the row Q1, Q and F1, and the first row and first column of the global stiffness matrix, then we can rearrange, we can rewrite the equation as K22, K23, K32, and K33, which is equal to Q2, Q3, which is equal to F2 and F3. So this is how you can rearrange the equation, and this elimination would result in the solution which it's like solving the two simultaneous equation. If your problem is having 4 by 4 type of matrix, and you know the conditions at one node, you can convert it into 3 by 3. Or if the more the condition you know, the more lesser the number of simultaneous equation you will get. Okay, so this is what we call the elimination approach. And why we know, why we need to understand this elimination approach, because we have to find out the unknowns by applying or by substituting the boundary condition. So this is one important point to consider. Now let us directly move to solve the few problems. And again, in solving the problem, we will be making our concepts more clear of our finite element analysis steps, then the formulation of stiffness matrix, then connectivity, and elimination approach. All that stuff we will be making our ideas clear. So the first problem is an axial stepped bar is subjected to an axial pull of 50 kilonewton. Okay, pull of 50 kilonewton. If the material of the bar is uniform, and has E value as 200 gigapascal, we have to determine the displacement stresses in each section. We have to consider 1D spar element. Which is the simplest type of element. 1D spar element. Okay. So the diagram is given something like this. A step bar is there. This is first portion, which is element number 1. Then we have second portion, which is element number 2, and this is third portion, which is element number 3. So this bar is there, and we have an axial pull of 50 kilonewton at the one end. The length are given, so let us say L1 is given as 200 millimeter, length of first element. Length of second element is given as 400 millimeter, and length of third element is given as 300 millimeter. cross sectional area A1 is given as 300 millimeter square, A2 as 200 millimeter square, and A3 is given as 90 millimeter square. Okay, so this is how your problem is formulated, and in real life also you will encounter this such kind of simple problem. So we need to make a finite element model of the object which is shown over here. So step number one, we need to make a finite element model for this given object. Okay, so we'll redraw this. We'll consider this as first element. This is element number one, which is always we write in enclosed in the blocks in the circle, node 1 and 2. Then element number 2, which constitutes the node 3, and element number 3 is having node number 3 and 4. At node number 4, we are having a force, and because of this applied pull force, we'll get some displacement over here, Q1 and F1 portion of the force. At node 2, we'll be having Q2 and F2 portion of the displacement and load, and Q3, F3, and Q4, F4. So at each node, we'll experience some displacement and some portion of the force which is available over here. Okay, so this is first step. These are the given things. Also, we have given modulus of elasticity as 200 into 10 raised to 3 Newton millimeter square. Okay, now step number one, we have prepared the model. Step number two is write the element connectivity table. Step number two is element connectivity table. Now, if you recall, the element connectivity table gives us an idea about the connectivity of various elements in terms of global and local node numbers. So let us write the element connectivity table. So element, which is E, and node numbers, which is having local degree of freedom. So this is local degree of freedom. So for at local level, we name the nodes as 1 and 2. So for element number 1, we are having 1, 2 node numbers. For 2, 2, 3. For 3, it is 3, 4. So this is what we call the element connectivity table. Okay, so these numbers, these are the on the global degree of freedom. Okay, so if we go back and see the diagram, so for node number 1, the global node numbers are 1, 2. For element 2, the global node numbers are 2, 3. And for 3, it is 3 and 4. But if we consider the element as local level, the node numbers will be 1 and 2 as it is. So this is at global level, element number 1, node 1 is 1, and it is node 2 is numbered as 2. For element 2, node 1 is numbered as 2, node 2 is numbered as 3. For element 3, node 1 is numbered as 3, and node 2 is numbered as 4. So the latter one are the node numbers at global level, and the previous one are the node numbers at local level. Okay. So this helps us to formulate your global stiffness matrix. Now we know that our element stiffness matrix. Now step number 3 is to find out element stiffness matrix. We know that just we have formulated element stiffness matrix as AE EE upon LE. A is cross-sectional area, modulus of elasticity, length of the element, and the matrix has 1, minus 1, minus 1, 1, which is a symmetric one. Okay, so I mark it at Ij and this as Ij. So these are the global degrees of freedom. Now you come to know the significance of global degrees of freedom when we make it in the form of global stiffness matrix. So let us write the element stiffness matrices for each element. So for element number 1, we can write AE EE by LE as we multiply it first, we take a product 300 into 200 10 raised to 3 divided by length of the element is 200. All this stuff is given to you. So it comes out to be 3 into 10 raised to 5 Newton per millimeter. Okay. So we take this 10 raised to 5 as a common term and we write the element stiffness matrix K1 as K1 as 10 raised to 5 we take it common and we write 3 minus 3 minus 3 and 3. Okay, so what we have done, we have just put these values which are given to us. We took this 10 raised to 5 common and we multiplied 3 to this matrix. We got this K1 for element number 1. Now look carefully. We'll be writing 1, 2, 1, 2. So these are the global degrees of freedom. From where we are writing? From our element connectivity table. For node numbers at global level are 1, 2. So we'll be writing it as first row, first column, second row, second column. Okay, so this is our first matrix, element stiffness matrix. For element 2 on the similar ground, we'll be formulating our AE by EE upon LE is coming out to be 200 into 200 10 raised to 3 divided by 400. So it is coming out to be 1 into 10 to the power 5 Newton per mm. So we can write K2 as, again we are taking out common term 10 to the power 5, 1 minus 1 minus 1, 1. Okay, now what we can write for global degree of freedom? So based on the element connectivity table, what we can write is 2, 3, 2, 3 and 2, 3. Okay, so we can write over here 2, 3 and 2, 3. Okay, so this is our second element stiffness matrix. For third one, for third element 3, we can write K3 as A3 E3 upon L3 into 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. Now I'll directly write K3 as, again we took out 10 raised to 5 as a common term and we write it as 0.6 minus 0.6 minus 0.6 and 0.6. So here global degrees of freedom will be based on the element connectivity table. It is 3, 4 and 3, 4. Okay, so we have formulated the element stiffness matrix. Now, we should note that there are four nodes and each having 1 degree of freedom. Okay, so 1 degree of freedom means each node is able to move in only in one direction. Thus, there are all 4 degrees of freedom, and the element stiffness matrix will be your 4 by 4 matrix. Okay, so how we can formulate or we can judge the size of the global stiffness matrix? We are having four number of elements into each element is having 1 degree of freedom. So we can say that if we have to roughly write size of global stiffness matrix, global stiffness matrix is equal to number of nodes, number of nodes available for that object into degrees of freedom per node. So that gives you the size of the global stiffness matrix. In this case, present scenario, there are four number of nodes and each node is having degree of freedom as 1. So your matrix size is 4 by 4. So your matrix size will be 4 by 4 for this problem. Let us say there are 5 number of nodes and each node is having 2 degrees of freedom, x and y. So there will be the size of the global stiffness matrix will be 5 into 2, that is 10 by 10. So in this way you can formulate the uh, size of the global stiffness matrix. Okay, so let us write the global stiffness matrix. Step number uh, 4. Step number 4. Formulate formulate global stiffness matrix. Formulate global stiffness matrix. So global stiffness matrix I'll write as first I'll write the structure 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the global degrees of freedom. Okay. So I'll find out first what is 1, 1. Okay. What is 1, 1? So I go to my element stiffness matrix and I'll find what is 1, 1. 1, 1. Is 1, 1 is 3. First row, first column. Which element is there? 3. So here also I'll write 3. I'll check for the other matrices also, element stiffness matrices. Is there any 1, 1 column? So in nowhere we can get the 1, 1 column. So I write simply 1, 3. Then I get for 2, 1. So 2, 1 is minus 3. So I'll write 2, 1 as minus 3. Then 3, 1. I go for 3, third column, first row. So third column, first row, I check for each and every matrix. So third column, first row, I haven't get anything. So there is no such column and such row, considering having global degrees of freedom 3 and 1. So what I'll write? I write 0 over here. Similarly, for 4, 1, there is no such element exists, so I write 0. Okay. Then next 1, 2. So 1, 2. What is first row, first column, second row? Minus 3. I'll check for other things, other matrices also. I haven't get anything. So I'll write first column and second, first column and second row as minus 3. Now 2, 2. Okay. Now listen carefully. 2, 2. So I am having 2, 2. This element 3. I go for second stiffness matrix 2, 2. So I have found out one more element over here. Okay, so I am having two elements considering the global degrees of freedom in element number 1 and element number 2. So what I'll be writing 3 plus 1 considering the sign. So that is how your element connectivity table will help you to formulate your global stiffness matrix. Then 3, 2, I'll check. It is -1, and for 2 there is no object, so that's why it is 0. Then 0, -1. Then again for 3, 3. 3, 3, let us check. So 3, 3, third row, third column, I have this element 1, and for 3 and 3 I have this 0.6. So I'll be adding this over here, 1 plus 0.6 and minus 0.6. So in this fashion I can complete my global stiffness matrix. Okay, so hope you have understood this, how to generate this global stiffness matrix. First write the global degrees of freedom, and then go on checking the numbers of respective rows and columns, so that you can get the proper elements and place the proper elements with the along with their signs. Okay, if let us say if it is minus 0.6, you should write 1 minus 0.6. Okay, and into I have 10 raised to 5. So don't forget to write this 10 raised to 5, which is common to all. Fine. Now this is step number 4. Now step number 5 is to write the equation. Step number 5 is to uh, write the equation in the uh, force, deflection and stiffness form. Force, deflection and stiffness in global terms. In global terms. Okay, so what is that? KQ is equal to F. So K we have formulated global stiffness matrix, Q, and Q is displacement vector and F is the force vector. Let us write it 10 raised to 5, 3, minus 3, 0, 0, minus 3, 4, minus 1, 0, 0, minus 1, 1.6 and minus 0.6, and 0, 0, minus 0.6, 0.6. Q I can write as Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4, and F I can write F1, F2, F3 and F4. So this is my equation ready. Now step number 5 is done. Step number 6 is apply boundary condition. So we have seen there are two approaches to apply the boundary conditions which are known to us, that is elimination and penalty approach. So we will be using elimination approach. Now I said apply the boundary condition, that means what? We know whatever we know that we have to write over there. Okay, so what we know for this problem, if we look at the statement of the problem and the diagram that we have, model we have generated, what we know, this node number 1 is fixed, so that's why Q1 is 0. Okay, so displacement at node 1 is 0, that I can conclude for this. So I can say that Q1 is equal to 0. And external forces on the nodes F1, F2 and F3 all are 0. So is there any forces, external forces on node 1, node 2, node 3? So there are no external forces, and we say that internal forces we are neglecting by uh, potential energy approach. Okay, so and F4, we know that F4 is known to us, that is 50 into 10 raised to 3 Newton. So these are the conditions, this is the information known to us. Q1 is 0 since it is fixed. Forces at node 1, 2, 3, external forces are 0, and external force at node 4 is having magnitude 50 kilonewton. Okay. So by elimination approach, what we can do over here? So considering this, since we know Q1, so we will eliminate Q1 and F1. Okay, and since Q1 is known, the first node value is known, we'll be eliminating the first row and first column. Okay, so now our equation is converted into 3 into 3. So rewriting this equation, I'll get 4, obviously 10 raised to 5 into 4 minus 1, 0, minus 1, 1.6, 0.6, 0, minus 0.6, 0.6, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And what we know for forces, we know that F2 and F3 are 0, external forces are 0, so I write 0, 0, and F4, I know it is as 50 into 10 raised to 4. Okay, so I am having 3 equations and 3 unknowns. Solving these 3 equations and 3 unknowns simultaneously with the help of calculator, you can solve it as, I'll get the answer solving equations simultaneously. I'll get the displacement at node 2 as 0.167 millimeter, Q3 as 0.667 millimeter, and Q4 as 1.5 millimeter. Okay, you can check these values. These values I got from the solving this equation simultaneously. So this is first answer. These are the displacements. Okay. So this is first answer. And to find out the reaction forces, I can use R is equal to KQ minus F. So the reaction force exists at only node 1, okay, because which is fixed. So I can write it as R1 equal to 10 raised to 5, 3 minus 3, 0, 0, which is the third row, and 0.167. These are the values I am writing. 0.667, 1.5, only for node 1, and force is 0. So R1 is coming out to be minus 50 into 10 raised to 3, which is proved that equal and opposite reaction at node number 1. So this is the reaction force I can find out. It is, once again, I'll tell you how I found it out. Reaction force is at only at only node number 1. So I consider this 10 raised to 5 and this row. Okay, Q1 is 0, Q2, Q3, Q4 values I found out. I've finally used it, and F value is minus, over here it is 0. So I consider the only first row, and I got this as reaction force as minus 50 into 10 raised to 5. Okay, so this is the part solution of the problem. Since time is running out, I'll solve the next portion, stresses in the element, in the next lecture. Okay, so you can put your attendance in the chat box and you can log up the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you have any doubts, please post it on the Google Classroom. I'll solve it.